welcome to Crosstalk. I'm joined again by Coby. We also want to extend a huge thanks to Karen for putting up with our shenanigans last week, and I'm glad you have an actual voice this week that you can use.
Yeah, and I don't sound like Brooks Walker, although it wouldn't be such a bad thing to sound like Brooks Walker. Brooks Walker, if you're out there, I wish I sounded like you normally when I'm sick.
Yeah, and it was painful to sound like Brooks Walker, right?
It was, but I was also just expecting all these show choir girls to just like appear in front of me.
Yeah, because it's just kind of like the cult that tends to follow those who were in it, right?
Yes.
Well, anyway, off of show choir cults and more onto Life of Cross Church this week. We have a couple of announcements that are really exciting. We have a few things coming up in the life of the church. As I mentioned last week and the week before, we have this movie night coming up, October 26th.
Wait.
Yes.
Let me guess. Is it Indiana Fairchild?
Indiana Fairchild. Dr. Mark Fairchild is coming to do Q&A with us after we show the screening of his documentary, The Last Apostle, related to the life of Paul, and Dr. Fairchild's archaeological work in what was Asia Minor as modern-day Turkey.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
And we are going to gobble all of the knowledge that we possibly can. So please, it's free movie night. Invite your friends. Tell your neighbors. Come on out. There's certainly, some measure of apologetic element to it because it's historical evidence for Christians in this part of the world, and he's just done an incredible work, and you all will love interacting with him, meeting him. So please do invite your friends to come see the screening of the film.
And before we jump onto the next one, I'm proud to announce the multi-purpose / Sunday school room is now a stereophonic setup pending the purchase of one cable. So we should probably fix that.
Tell people what stereophonic actually means.
So the fast version is mono is one speaker, and it's trying to smush the left and the right channels of audio together. And it can kind of sound muddy sometimes if you don't have mono content playing through it. Stereo is left and right.
So we have left and right speakers to capture all of the sound appropriately and fill the room.
That way you can hear Brad's elbow in the corner of the screen creaking on the documentary.
Yep. All those years of playing basketball have weakened them out. I'm telling you. It's okay.
But anyway.
I have weak elbows and carpal tunnel, but even still, we survive. Other announcement stuff, we have a congregational safety meeting and policy type meeting coming up Sunday, November the 9th. That'll be right after the service. So we can just reinforce some policies and implementations that we're wanting to introduce. So in the case of emergencies and some volunteer training and other such like that, we are abundantly prepared and able to handle the situations that require our attention in ministries. And also if there is other adverse weather or any situations like that, we have a plan. And it's just good to have a plan.
Yes.
So we're aiming to be prepared on that. And the last thing, if you are a part of Cross Church and you love our other ministry partners in town, there is a Youth for Christ dessert banquet, November 17th. I believe it's at 6:30 or 7. I can't remember exactly what the time is, but we would love to show a lot of our support by going and listening to what they're doing, the stories of testimonies from kids and from our Lee and Liz, our campus life directors here, and then the chapter director, will be hearing from them. It's just a really wonderful time to see what the Lord is doing among the youth in Southern Adams County. So I highly recommend that you come and sign up, come and love on these people, and we look forward to having a wonderful time at that banquet at that time.
Yes.
Are you coming?
Maybe.
I haven't looked at the sign-up sheets yet, so sometimes I like to surprise myself with what people are going to come with. So
I've kind of been just drifting through life up until about yesterday, about 9 a.m. was the time I wasn't drifting through life, so we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm glad you are better. I've been busy. I I feel like I haven't had a chance to breathe for weeks at this point, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Some important things have happened. In as is the life of ministry, man, there comes a time where we're never really off the clock.
Nope.
And there are rhythms and seasons where stuff is really moving all the time and we can't keep up with it. And there's other times where it's restful and slow and we're just kind of waiting for the next wave of stuff to come. And that's not all bad either. But I think coming back to this idea of just being ready in and out of season is a really, really useful thing. The Lord gives us so many things in his scriptures to use, and I'm just abundantly thankful for those. But there is another thing, now that we're off of announcements and stuff like that. We asked a few people a really important question. And I want you to be thinking about this and maybe even comment it as you're watching this video whenever you do. If you log into YouTube through your Google account, you can comment on this video.
Or feel free to comment in the Facebook.
Oh, yes. Also,
below.
Facebook post below. That'll work as well.
If you comment, I will put it in the video for next week, and we will bring back all the answers.
We'll read the answers.
Or you could text one of us.
Yes.
If you want to be anonymous, you can text Brad or I, but it is going in the podcast if you tell us.
Yes, we won't say your name, but we will tell your answers. So the question is, what is something you loved as a child, but now you absolutely hate it? You cannot stand it. The sight, the smell, the taste, the touch of this thing repulses you. Coby, what is your answer?
Of course, you put me on first. I believe you sent me this question while I was dying on my couch, hopped up on cold medicine, and my answer was eating my boogers.
I'm glad you don't do that anymore.
I am also glad I don't do that.
Do you have the children's book, the Never Eat Your Boogers and the Reason Why?
No, I do not.
Yeah, and you have to put a booger ghost on if you're going to clean your nose, and make sure you wash your hands really well. So it's like a health and safety training through an illustrative children's book talking about the different types of boogies that exist. I'm just letting you know it was
interesting.
When Azario was born by a former youth group kid, that was one of their favorite books. And if you knew this kid, you'd understand why it was their favorite book.
Let me guess. It was Ethan Han.
No, it was not.
Shout out Ethan Han.
Shout out to Ethan Han, who is a fine young man who never delves into such tomfoolery. All right. So a couple answers we gathered. Yours, obviously. Thankfully, you cannot stand eating your own boogers anymore. Please don't try it again anytime soon to double check it either. So, anyway, mine was bologna. That is the saddest excuse for lunch meat that I've ever seen. I think it has to cause colon inflammation just by its own existence. I'm pretty sure it's made entirely of organ meat. It's kind of slimy, and it's just not a texturally pleasant food to eat. And I'm not a picky eater, but
oh, I know.
The reason I was...
Some of the things you ate in college repulsed me.
It's just hot sauce on a plate. He needs to cool off. Anyway, my daughter absolutely loves bologna right now. So we have to buy it all the time. And I don't eat it. But just handling the stuff really bothers me.
I have a revolutionary idea for you, Brad. Are you ready?
Yes.
You are the person with the debit card. You don't have to buy the bologna.
Right, but I don't have issues with her eating it. Okay, there's certain battles that you pick as a parent.
Yes.
If she's going to eat something that's, not absolute garbage, then that's fine. So that was mine. Linda, our secretary, she said mice. She used to have pet mice when she was a kid. Then the mouse bit her. Then she fed said mouse to her cat, thus reordering the circle of life in the way that it should be.
Yeah,
I really like, that's probably my favorite answer of any of the people we've asked so far. Karen, the one we had on as a guest last week, our worship leader, she doesn't know. And based on her story, she kind of had a pretty good idea of what she liked in the beginning of her life anyway.
Right.
So that doesn't necessarily surprise me. She's frazzled by us at the very least. But yeah. And then we did ask our wives this question. My wife said playing outside because bugs love her.
Bugs in the sun.
Bugs in the sun love her very much.
And I will tell my wives. My wife used to love folding laundry, and now she does not.
This is why.
No comment.
So, guys, having an extra room or closet in your house just to dump clothes should become a normal thing.
Yeah.
Because folding laundry it's just a lot of work to have to do it all again in like 5 days.
I'm notorious for just living out of like my laundry basket I bought from college.
Yeah.
If I do laundry,
I still have mine. I do that too.
I am notorious for just living out of a suitcase or a basket. You go on vacation, great, you packed it, you folded it all up, you washed it, you brought it home, and it's still in the suitcase.
And it's still in the suitcase and you never unpacked it.
And you never unpack it. I know for a fact, I can't tell you which trips back to back, but I know at least once or twice since I've been married, Abby and I have gone to Disney or have gone somewhere and then gone to Disney or vice versa. So we go on the first trip, you pack, you go, blah, 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 you come home. And most of the time we can wash our clothes while we're somewhere and we bring home mostly clean clothes. There's some dirty stuff, but it's mostly clean. I have pulled stuff out of a suitcase slowly but surely and then gone on another trip and like continue to just like live out of a suitcase, even though I've been home like 3 or 4 weeks. Like it's not every day, but like, oh, hey, like I'm looking for this pair of socks. And I go, wait, I think I wore that on vacation. So sure enough, I go to the corner of the room and oh, hey, here's that pair of socks. Cool.
You go on vacation in like August and then you're still pulling socks out in March.
I don't pack that much, but yes. But I've also, I find stuff in suitcases like, I'm just looking for that. Where'd that go?
Yeah. Now, this is something that's newer, and I don't know if it's because of the amount of times that I've moved in the last year. I never knew it was so easy to lose t-shirts. I have lost like 4 t-shirts into some abyss.
Yeah, I had a Cookie Monster t-shirt that I had in college that I cannot find. I don't know where it is.
Yeah, I have no idea where the t-shirt monster is, but yeah, that's the one that baffles me. Where do they go? I'm just so
I think they go wherever all the spare socks go that we lose in the dryer.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe it's in the tub of the dryer. When you start pulling panels off, maybe you'll see things. Who knows? Hey, we are not HVAC repairmen. We are Christian ministry.
I do know this, though. One time, my mom came home and had set her car keys on the dryer near the lint trap. Walked away, did something, came back a little while later, and there was other stuff on the dryer too. And she pulled the lint trap and she dropped something and it hit the keys and they went into the lint trap. So then she tried to take the back of the dryer off to get the keys out and she ended up breaking the dryer. And so I come home from school and the dryer is in like 12 pieces in the laundry room. And I go, what happened? She says, don't ask. And my dad was sitting in the living room like this.
Make sure they see this episode since you told that story.
Yes, I will make sure they see this.
That's wonderful. Oh, well. So we went through another parable last week. That was the parable of the persistent widow. The sermon was the power of persistence. And I believe, as I've went through all of these parables so far, and if you know any different, correct me if I'm wrong, Luke says at the beginning of chapter 18 in his gospel, and he told them a parable to the effect that they ought always pray and not lose heart. He tells them what the point of the parable is before he wrote it down.
Okay.
And I just find that to be interesting. Usually that's not the case. The parables kind of explain themselves. But for some reason, Luke included that here. So there was this judge who didn't respect God or men, as Jesus is telling this story. and there's this persistent widow who is seeking justice over her adversary. And this unrighteous judge grants the widow justice only for the reason that she will stop coming to him to complain. That's marvelous, because what Jesus says, and he makes this point, is hear what the unrighteous judge says, and will not God give justice to his elect, who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long over them? I tell you, he will give justice to them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? So what he's saying is, if a bad judge is going to give justice, if he's hounded upon, what about the faithful believers who pray to the Lord day and night? Is he not going to give them justice and give it speedily? Coby, I asked this question on Sunday, and I think we've all felt this way. And for anybody listening out there, have you ever prayed a prayer that you feel like God was not hearing or was refusing to answer, and you don't feel like you were necessarily selfish in what your prayer request was?
Yeah, I feel like I can't give an example, but yes. But also at the same time, I think God answers every prayer, but just because we ask for something that we think is, something that God would say yes to, doesn't mean that that's actually like what he wants for us. Does that make any sense at all? So
somewhat.
Okay, so let me say it again. So God answers prayers. He answers every prayer. We might think that, hey, like we're asking for, I'll just pull this out of a hat. We're asking for God to heal a beloved figure in the community, right?
Sure.
Someone that's in church and is a pastor and everyone loves this pastor. And I'm just making this up, right? And they're just terminally ill and they're just so sick. And we're asking God for, them to be healed and to be free from this illness. But just because we're asking for something good in our eyes doesn't mean that God is going to say yes to it.
So back to the answering every prayer, I think what you're saying, the example you used, makes sense. I actually don't think God answers every prayer.
We can disagree to agree.
Well, yeah, but mostly for what James says in the book of James about, and it comes from, if a person has a self-righteous and selfish posture, the ones who said we're going to go to such and such a town and make a profit and all of that. And he said, and you do not receive when you ask because you ask wrongly. So what is right praying? I think asking for somebody to be healed of an affliction, physical, spiritual, mental, whatever it may be, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're asking God to intervene and take care of a situation in whatever way he decides, whether that be through physicians, through medicine, whatever it might be. I also think an answer to a prayer calling for healing, it can be death.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing you can do to a believer, the worst thing that can happen to a believer is the best thing that can happen to a believer. Eventually, we expire. We all have an expiration date. We will quit breathing and our brain will quit functioning and we will be in eternity with the Lord. And to be in the presence of the Lord is no loss at all. And to be free from physical affliction and any of the things that we face here that is marred by sin and death, we don't have that anymore. It's only a place of life and goodness because that's where our Lord is.
Right.
So for those who are in Christ, that's a gain. I would absolutely say is a gain. But back to these requests. So Zechariah and Elizabeth, let's look at that example, which is recorded at the beginning of this gospel and a couple others. They were quite old, never had children, were always barren. And Zechariah I believe he was a high priest because he went into the Holy of Holies in that story. And it was revealed to him by the Lord that Elizabeth would have a child. And he essentially thought it to be impossible. How many years prior do you think that they were praying for children?
Probably the whole time.
Do you think they gave up after a while? Let's just assume they were in their 70s. Do you think they gave up on the prayer?
I would assume that at some point they kind of just. This is all assumption. I'm assuming that.
I'm asking for an opinion. I'm not asking for expert Bible analysis.
Sure. Yeah. My 2 cents is that, they probably got to a point where they go, we don't see people our age around us having children anymore. Like, man, this is sad. That sucks. And they probably came to terms with it and moved on and just, hoped for, other things to do with their lives.
Yeah. And I would say that some years before, they probably quit praying that prayer to have children. It doesn't mean that God still didn't hear it and then answer it this amount of time later.
Right.
You could look at the example of Abraham and Sarah, Hannah and Elkanah, I think was her husband's name, when she birthed Samuel and dedicated him to the Lord. So we've seen these stories in Scripture, and if it's a good and worthy prayer and even justice for people who are afflicted and marginalized and all of those types of things, I mean, God says vengeance belongs to him, and I do entirely believe he answers the prayer of those who seek him. And the story that I kind of shared at the end there was of a Tommy Coby who was with the Sudan Interior Mission, and he believed that the Lord answered prayer and went into unknown tribes and places, and somehow churches were established because he was confident that the Lord would make known what he couldn't see ahead of him. Going into a completely unknown environment, 7,000 miles away from where you live is not a small feat, as we all know. So, and again, this idea that God cooperates with humans in their weakness too, I think there's a piece of that as well. So we could talk about that all day long, but I want to give a preview for what we're going to be looking at this week with the Pharisee and the tax collector. This will be in Luke chapter 18, verses 9 through 14, I believe. Yes. And this has a lot to do with humility and what we think of ourselves. I don't know if you've realized this, and the longer I'm a Christian, the more I tend to realize it. I'm not all that. I'm not that great. I might try to think that I am sometimes, and I quickly find out I'm not all that great, but Christ in a person is great. And the more of that we see is a wonderful thing to gain. But I don't want to spoil any of my thoughts on this, so I'm going to refrain. But please do go and read Luke chapter 18, verses 9 to 14 this week.
And this is not Zacchaeus?
No. Mm-mm. This is the Pharisee and the tax collector.
Okay.
And there's 2 different attitudes here that are paralleled that Jesus wants us to pay attention to. One is, thank you for not making me like other men. And then, who is the Pharisee, the one who's supposed to be a righteous person. Then the tax collector, who is sinful, is begging God for mercy because he knows how weak he is, where the Pharisee perceives himself to be strong. So I'm really looking forward to this week's text from a sermon standpoint, and any of you who have been listening from afar and want to come join us, please come join us for worship and 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings, and we look forward to seeing you if you join us, for sure.
You get to hear me do announcements?
Yes. To repeat what? Yeah, did you? We kind of both did the announcement thing at the beginning.
You mostly did the announcement.
Yeah. I just really like Dr. Fairchild, so I kind of ran away with it.
I just interject things that aren't all that helpful. That's my role here.
No, you do a wonderful amount of stuff. That's I mean, this whole podcast is possible because of your technical background and things like that. So I guess I want to bug you a little bit.
Okay.
Since we dove into Karen's story last week, not your entire story, but so you went to Huntington University for corporate media.
Well, I went in with a double degree of film production and broadcast, and sensed, partially by my own doing and partially on God's part, that I was just done with the politics that the film program had become, because it's highly political as you get through it and get closer and closer to junior and senior year. It's all about, being well liked across the whole department, and also being well liked by the professors. And I wasn't unliked by the professors, but I had kind of made some choices that did not benefit me being likable. And so I kind of sensed that, I wasn't going to get to tell my stories the way I wanted to, and not really even get to tell the stories I wanted to tell at all. And I was just kind of falling out of love with film. And so I switched over to broadcast, and then took the corporate media production, essentially track. So my degree actually says broadcast on it, but the track and my focus was corporate media, which encompasses film, radio, broadcast TV.
A wide range.
It covers everything that I do here, plus all the stuff that I did at College Park before here.
Yeah. So you ended up in the ministry world, and that kind of began with a mission trip you took to the Dominican Republic a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
It was kind of just like an immersive experience thing. And then there's this opportunity at the local church level and for the Church of the United Brethren in Christ at the denominational level.
Yep.
For a brief window of time. And then as you kind of felt out a couple of different things over the past few years, you end up back in the church world. Mm-hmm. And along with that, as somebody who's been able to watch you, just being able to see, all of these skills, especially for producing a podcast, we have a lot of fun doing.
Oh yeah.
It's just, a joy for us. Not only the skills, but then, the heart for ministry that backs it up. I guess, where did you find in your time serving in ministry, where did you really start to kind of find a love for it?
I think it was a combination of you inviting me into helping you with youth ministry. And that really just kind of started out, I was just doing the fun stuff for a while. And then you kind of were more direct, be like, hey, can you come more than just the fun stuff? I was like, yeah, I guess so. And I had kind of already walked away. I had been helping with an upper elementary thing, and it was all right. But it wasn't quite what I wasn't loving it anymore. And I was kind of ready to walk away anyway. And it all just worked out in the end. And then I enjoyed, doing that with you. And then I took a little break for a couple different reasons, partially because we had our son. And then you had left, and then I was curious about Kidsmen, and I was kind of starting to hear that this position might be opening up sooner than later. And so I hopped on with them this past spring and served all spring, and really enjoyed getting to work with Pastor Maddie at College Park, and was never really in charge, but she was very interested in collaborative stuff and, running stuff past me, and, I helped, we did.
I think good leaders do that.
Yeah. She was very interested in what I had to say, and we didn't do everything that I said, but I just came up and just had lots of ideas, and I helped organize a Star Wars night that we did, and that was a ton of fun. So I printed a bunch of 3D prints of lightsabers and all kinds of different items for a scavenger hunt, and helped her like think through, and also just gave her a background on Star Wars. And that was
Sure.
it was fun to bring personal passions into ministry and help her. She had a vision of umbrella wise, like, hey, like we want to do a Star Wars night, but I was able to help her understand concepts to mold and twist ideas she had to make it work for the age of kids and the theming that we wanted to have for that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're a visionary guy anyway, and very forward thinking. And that's been, one of the really exciting things about having you here is, I really enjoy our staff meetings. It would be very stressful for some people. I think we stress Linda out sometimes anyway.
I think we stress her out every week.
But between me, you, her, and Karen, it's just so much fun because there's not, we have a set of things that we're trying to get through, but also we
don't go in a straight line.
We don't go in a straight line.
Ever.
Ever. We have fun with it.
Before we called you, we were in a straight line for the most part.
I didn't even kick it off the tracks. I just called you back.
Yeah.
I guess where I go, rabbit trails soon follow. Whether I'm responsible for them or not, be up for you to determine. So, but yeah, thanks for sharing a little bit about that. And
of course,
it's just really fun to do ministry here in Southern Adams County. Just again, a wonderful community, wonderful partners, wonderful church family. And thank you for coming to listen with us this week. And we'll see you next time.
We need to tell a joke.
Oh, closing joke?
Yes.
You got one?
I have one. You have one for next week, okay?
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. Should I actually tell the answer? Or should I make people...
I'll try to answer it.
Okay. If you don't answer it, then you guys have to answer it when it comes out. What is Beethoven's favorite fruit?
Okay. Oh boy. Beethoven's favorite fruit. I'm stumped on this one. And I'm pretty sure I've heard it before.
I'll tell you anyway.
You're going to spoil it for everybody?
Yep, I'm going to spoil it. You ready?
All right.
Banana. Like if you release do.
I understand.
Do.
Please warn other listeners to skip the last 30 seconds of this video. Have a wonderful week, Cross Church family, and our brothers and sisters in Christ who may be listening near and far. Thank you for the time you've given, and we look forward to coming back to see you next week.
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine.